So, for anyone that's listening, one, welcome to the channel. This is the Deacon Speaks channel. I am the Deacon. We got Liam Wood here. He is a Microsoft engineer. Liam and I met throughout the hiring process as he was looking for a change in his role and his career. Um, and I was lucky enough to be the one to reach out to him. So he's agreed to get on the channel here. Um, but yeah, so let's start with with the transition over to Microsoft. How's that going? And onboarding. I know with onboarding and stuff like that, but how's it looking so far? How are you feeling?
I mean, it is everything I wanted in a job. Like, I had kind of an idea going into like college, like what software was that really grew as I got further into my degree. And by the end of it, I had this like new idea of what I wanted, like a career in software engineering to be. Um, and then I went to Visa, and that was not necessarily what I thought it was going to be. And then flash forward 2 years, this opportunity comes up, and it is like everything that I wanted. Um, the support from like they already had onboarding material. They have like a mentorship program right out of the gate. Um, they are very understanding with ramp up times and very very supportive in every way, and that's something that I feel like I was missing a lot of. And this is, yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy. It's kind of crazy.
And actually, that's a good point because actually that kind of helps me going forward to be able to speak on what that process, what it looks like for any incoming engineer, because I'm only able to speak on my experience when I started at Microsoft, especially as a contractor. Essentially, I'm not W-2 employee of Microsoft. Hopefully soon, or maybe hopefully down the line, but um, I agree. I think it's been for me and like our team, there was so much focus on, having an onboarding buddy. No question is a dumb question. If you're not asking questions, we're going to be a little worried about you. This is very open community in that sense. And it's nice to hear that it carries over to other parts of the organization. And now I can feel comfortable speaking on that. So, going back to you mentioned where I guess the interest for software began for you,
Mm.
and we kind of chatted about this a couple weeks ago, because you mentioned your first year. I guess you were kind of just like a lot of us. You were there for college. It sounded like,
Mm.
and just kind of going through. Tell me about when a little bit more about when you knew software was like, okay, I want to take this serious. Um, like what about it kind of took a hold of you there?
Yeah, I mean, I was always interested in computers and like I don't know. I grew up playing Xbox and trying to get my Wi-Fi to give me as little lag as possible. So I was always like googling things and learning about technology. And so I went into college. Straight out of high school, you're like, oh, what school? Like, why would I actually try here? Um, just kind of did the bare minimum for the first 2 semesters. Um, felt like I was in a position where I either had to really focus in on my studies or just lose this kind of idea, this loose idea I had
Mm,
for what my future was going to look like. And so the summer of my freshman sophomore year, um, I just started working like getting ahead on my studies. Like every time I had an assignment, I would do it a week before it was due. I was super on top of things, and I really don't know if it was something about software engineering or just really like wanting to like having a goal and wanting to get there. And I felt like this was how I was gonna do it.
mm,
Um, and it like there's just so many opportunities. Like it just kept um, like I went to the fall of my sophomore year. started going to career events. Companies were coming to my campus, so I went and talked to Microsoft recruiters, Google recruiters, Facebook. Everyone like would come to my college's campus, and I just was like, okay, all I have to do is X, Y, and Z, and I can get to where I want to go. Um, and I didn't really have a clear cut idea of where I wanted to go,
Mhm.
but it just was like, oh, I don't ever want to like lose on the chance of lose out on that chance of having something just because I wasn't taking things seriously at any given point. So
Interesting.
yeah, really pushed myself starting sophomore year.
But in that process, then I know there were, in terms of your personal projects
Mhm.
in college, there was something specific that you were into. I think it was, I think you mentioned like the, I'm gonna say this wrong, all right? The glass, like stuff like visual.
VR, AR stuff. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How did that come about, and was that something that you were hoping to go right into after school?
Yeah, yeah. AR and VR were one of my passions I discovered in college. Um, like it's funny that you say this or that you asked, because it was a Microsoft recruiter who told me my sophomore year of college to get involved on campus, like find a leadership position and really, get something that sets you apart from the people around you, your classmates. And so I guess I was on Facebook at some point and I saw a student organization called Gator VR was looking for a historian position to fill their historian position. I didn't know what that was, but I applied and um, they were like, sure, okay. And I had no idea what virtual reality was, augmented reality. I had no idea at that point, and they kind of tasked me with some kind of mundane things, and I was really not feeling it.
Mm,
They were like, "Oh, it's like blast our meetings on social media," which is like really not who I am.
okay.
Um, like just like take pictures of our events, which I like to do, but it was like, okay, this isn't really what I imagined when someone said like get involved on campus. Um,
It's like a
and
marketing assistant. That's what it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally, literally. But it was such an important role because it brought people to our club, and
Mm,
what I discovered in that, um, like what I discovered I liked initially about that position was that we were having weekly club meetings, like weekly like officer meetings, and to go there and get to brainstorm with these other like young, like passionate people. Like loved that. Like I loved getting to come up with ideas to improve our club, to get better membership, like to really create something for our community. Um, and so that was the first thing I fell in love with, and it wasn't quite enough to make me really happy to be there.
mhm.
Like it was like, okay, this is something cool. I'd like to take this maybe somewhere else. And I think I was just complaining one night to my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "You complain about this all the time. You need to find something that you love about this." And I was like, "Well, VR is kind of cool too." And so I just like had to do like a mental switch up in my head and um, just like started coming up with events that were more VR focused, like introducing people to the technology and education and creating projects in with like virtual reality technology. Um, and I just fell in love with that. So
So
that
May 2020. Um, Tell me about Visa now. I guess and I was looking at your resume too, just kind of reviewing what in terms of what you were looking for and what you were doing.
Mhm.
Did it match up? Did it fit the bill? Talk to me.
Yeah, no, I think you're hinting to something that yeah, like if you looked at what I did before Visa, you're like, what? How did you end up here? Um, and well, the easiest answer is that it was in Austin, and I really wanted to be in Austin.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was gonna take a job in Austin, no matter what it was, just to get out here. Um, so that's a big like if you ask why, like that's why it's because it was in Austin. It was it was also a well-paying position, which was nice
Okay.
too.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
fresh out of college, you
yeah.
gotta get and it's visa still. I mean,
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
great for the resume.
Yeah,
That's great industry experience. But so you
totally.
knew then, I guess I would like to dive in a little bit into, some of the technical aspects of what you were doing.
Mhm.
First, I'll ask, did you know what you were getting into, essentially? Did you know the scope of the role before you signed up?
Probably not. I mean, I understood the technologies, like, they were pretty transparent about it. Like, "This is gonna be C++." plus plus. I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, it's a programming language." Um, like, I'm comfortable working with any programming language. Um, so C++ plus plus didn't scare me. They mentioned assembler. I'd only done a little bit of assembler in college, and so I wasn't like, "Oh, okay." Not exactly selling point for it. Um, but why I think still at that point, I was imagining a role like what I had been sold in college, which was this modern tech company with, agile methodology. Um, that's a big part of it. Just like modern, software engineering tools like Git, GitHub,
Mhm.
um, VS Code, you know, and I like it's kind of hard if any software engineers watch this and they're like, okay, and like
Right.
that's just the standard. Like that's what I expected, and
Right.
um, so they didn't mention any of those things because I
Right.
just kind of assumed, and that's a dangerous game to play.
Right. Because and this is where you were able to explain it quite well when we initially spoke, but it's been some time, and from what I remember, you think of Visa, a lot of transactions,
Mhm.
data that spans decades, and these databases are probably, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of these databases were like from VMs or servers that were on premise, very legacy type of code, or monolithic type of things going on there, and that's kind of where you are at. It sounds like kind of like I think it was like a scheduling system, whatever. Can you explain that a little bit more in terms of, and then how it just really wasn't very modern?
Yeah. Well, I worked on a mainframe, which is like what you think of these huge, like we were taught about mainframes in college, and it was like computers that spanned an entire room. Like that's what a mainframe was. Like that's what they used to put people on the moon with these, like I don't know if you ever seen Hidden Figures, great movie,
Hmm. Hmm.
but there are computers there that are just like huge, and that's what I think of when I think of a mainframe. And obviously, technology has gotten to a point where that's not exactly what a mainframe is anymore, but
Hmm.
they're basically just a big server that's really good at doing high throughput like transactions,
Hmm.
which is why Visa uses them for their credit network. Um, but I guess to like visualize it, I don't know if you've seen Stranger Things. Um,
Not all of it.
that's okay. That's okay. But basically, it's a show set in like the
Right.
80s. And I was watching it the other day with my fiance, and um, they were in a library, and there was a little computer monitor that the librarian was looking something up on, or they were looking something up on, and I was like, that's what I worked on. Like that's the interface that I was working on is exactly it's like the same that it has been since the 80s, pretty much.
So that wasn't a joke. So when they were saying, because I was listening to them say, I haven't heard of anyone working on this type of thing since, I think someone said the '80s.
Yep.
So kind of like I don't know if binary is the right word, but like the 101 stuff like that
Thankfully,
of
no,
just,
but
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 like
as
black
low
screen.
black screen, green text. It's
Wow,
like
like the
main
Matrix.
like the Matrix. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Literally unbelievable. Like people don't think that that type of development still happens,
Right.
um, and for good reason. We've moved a lot past that, um, but there's still a lot of big organizations that use mainframes. Visa is one
Hmm.
of them. Um, the IRS, big mainframe.
Anything with data, that lots of data that spans decades and stuff.
Yes,
Like, so maybe healthcare systems would too, or
for sure.
insurance,
Yeah,
stuff like
insurance.
that.
Yep.
So
I had an interview with someone who had just went from USAA to like a fintech company in California, and they were like, "Oh, I also worked on mainframes." I'm like, "Who are you? How did we meet?"
you guys should start a group or something like that, you know. Um,
Mainframes Anonymous, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But so here's the part that I think for me, like in our initial conversation, that you know really struck me was, well, one, as a recruiter, I'm the type that I try not to look at things very black and white. I try to see sometimes past just the, what was your experience? Does it match up with the basic qualifications of what we're looking for? I like to take note on of like personal interest, passion, the person type of thing. And also, just the drive to do more, the initiative, stuff like that, those soft skills.
Yeah.
um, this is where you mentioned you implemented a little more modernization, if you will. Yeah, I think it was kind of like a DevOps type of process or some type of way to automate and quality check. I don't know if it was more QA in a sense, or if it was just automation within the process there. Um, how Now that you've given us a picture of the matrix that you were working on,
Yeah.
how do you implement some type of GitHub process into that? It doesn't even seem possible to me.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible either. Yeah, thankfully there are a lot of, um, at least there's one big company in the space of modernizing in place is that's their whole shtick. Um, it's Broadcom, CA Broadcom. They've been in technology for a very long time. They make chips. They do pretty much everything. Their software. They have a lot of software products for mainframes that um, a lot of mainframe shops use,
Hmm.
um, and they actually have a product that is meant for bringing um, Git to developers on the mainframe. Um, but the biggest hurdle to that is not necessarily like hooking everything up. Like, sure, that's like a technical challenge. We can solve those things, but it's really introducing of such a modern technology to legacy mainframe developers who are honestly at the end of their careers and they don't want to learn a new technology, a new tool like Git.
Hmm.
Um, and that's a big hurdle that you're always gonna, have. But long term, it's a very, in my view, is a very worthwhile, endeavor because you are opening up mainframe development, which, for better or for worse, will be here for a little bit longer.
Right.
Um, you're exposing that to younger developers, and what I felt like I got to do before I left was really kind of kickstart that process because you really, with anything, you need some proponent for it. You need someone who's like willing to get their hands dirty, make it come to fruition. And
Mm.
thankfully, I had a very passionate coworker who was also supporting me, and he was much more senior than I was, and so he
Mm.
was, he knew who to talk to, like all like so much red tape. So he was just trudging through that, and I was like just kind of his like spokesperson. I was like, Git is worth it. Like
Right.
if you want to if you want to bring on younger talent, you need Git. You need a way for young developers to get onboarded without such a like yeah, without such a high cost of entry. So
Right.
it was that was probably one of my favorite things I accomplished there, and really just got things started before I left. And so I felt really terrible leaving when I did, but
Yeah.
I'm so happy now. So it
But
was well.
you also, you kind of I can't think of the right term, but you kind of moved the ball a little bit for it to start rolling.
Mhm. Mhm.
because you make a, especially with something like a mainframe like that, and the fact that your managers, when they heard about it, they were laughing. It just really tickled them that this was still a thing.
Mhm.
That can get looked over for a very long time. You've took that initiative, and I think I remember you told me now it's kind of set up in a way for anyone new coming in. There's a project in place. This is what we're
Mhm.
trying to do, and that's a little bit more marketable for any other rookies coming in, right? So,
Definitely.
but so uh, when we spoke, I could tell you felt, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I could tell you felt stuck in a way. Like I can feel the frustration a little bit,
Mhm.
um, kind of feeling like, hey, I'm not really tapping into my potential. How long were you feeling that way? Because I think you were there for about what, a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah. Probably fully about a year and 7, 8 months kinda thing. Yep.
Okay. Yes,
So
I got the sense that you were frustrated.
mhm,
Um, however, I you spoke, I think you took, I know this is going to sound like I'm going to sound like a hippie a little bit, so bear with me, people. You took that energy or that frustration, of the day to day. You were like, I really just don't like what I'm doing. This is not what I want. When speaking with me, and I imagine even when speaking in your interview, I feel like instead of complaining about what you're doing, even if it was very PC, like, it's just not really what I'm looking to be doing, not to speak bad about anyone. I feel like you really considered what you were doing now and what you wanted to do, and you took that energy of the frustration, and just when you spoke on the things that you want to do, that's where the passion, that's where it spilled out into, and that's what really got I guess that's where I really took notice. I was like, "Oh man!" Like, well, it was that mixing with how you implemented that GitHub type of thing, in which I didn't think it was possible. That initiative plus the passion I was hearing. Um, I'll be honest, like, on paper, I guess you could say it was a risk on my part to say let's move forward. But once again, I'm not always black and white in those senses. But what are your thoughts after we got off the phone? And I think we kind of talked about it. I said, hey, this is what this role is doing. Things don't really match up necessarily.
mhm.
What were your thoughts? Even though I said, but hey, let's go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever didn't believe in my ability to, like, reinvent myself, um, but, it's just very encouraging to meet someone like you that is, I don't know, we a lot of, I think our passions for just, like, self-fulfillment, it's, like, that we really hit on the nose, like, um, pretty immediately. I think we just ended up talking for, like, a long time, and I was like, "Okay, like, this is" like, regardless, it didn't feel like an interview, it didn't feel like we were just 2 friends, like, getting to know each other, and that was,
Right.
um I think that just speaks to, like, you as, like, a technical recruiter, like, like you saying, look at things black and white, what that says to me is, like, you're looking for something that is more human, more, like, not something you're gonna find on a resume, you're gonna find in a conversation with someone, um, so regardless of, like, how if you wanted to proceed with me, I felt like I made a connection with someone, and that was, like I was like, "Okay, that was totally worth, the phone call," and, obviously, there is an investment from, both sides when agree to have a conversation,
Mhm.
um, so it was well worth it, and I was like, "Okay, regardless of where this goes, like, that was a great conversation," so
Yeah. No, and thank you for saying that. And actually, I do remember you saying at the end, it's like, hey, if anything, man, because I think what you said, if you ever want to reach out to me and talk to me about crypto,
yeah.
because it typically a phone screen is supposed to take like 30 minutes, maybe 40. I think we spoke for about 40 minutes on crypto alone.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, all right, Liam, we got to get to work here. Let's reel it in. But kind of told me about what your personal you have you're working on some personal things with crypto, and it's called Anza Academy, correct? Which is a educational platform specifically for blockchain, not necessarily cryptocurrencies,
Mhm.
because I think what a lot of people don't realize is blockchain, there's you can do so much more with blockchain than just cryptocurrency,
Mhm.
right? So um yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to tell a little bit more about Anza? Am I saying it Anza or Anza?
You know what? We haven't figured it out yet, so it's whatever whatever you want. Um, we're both of so my friend who's the founder of it, we're both from Miami, so it's like Anza is like 'cause in Spanish Z's or S's for some reason. So Anza is how we say it, but you can say it however you want to say it.
I'll say
Anza,
it how you
Anza.
say it, man. That's how it's supposed to be said. Yeah.
That's yeah. Well, we'll see what people how people adopt it. We're the more people we get on it is like it's gonna change what it is at its core, right? The more users they kind of will drive, how we what features we spend more time developing and yeah. But I mean, at that time, I was pretty involved in the project. I was probably doing 15 to 20 hours on the side, doing development, a lot of front end work. Um, so I guess yeah, I spent a year and a half doing C++ plus plus and like application level, like low level application
Hmm.
development. But my like strongest background and my passion was web technologies, web development. Did a bunch of full stack stuff in college, and um, when my friend was like, "Hey, I want to," like, she's an educator. She has a YouTube game dev channel that is pretty successful. She does that almost full time, as well as every endeavor that she's doing. She's incredible. Um, but so she's an educator just by heart. Like she loves, creating content for people, and she loves like making it free for people of all walks. Um, so the Anza, like the whole idea behind that is like creating entry level content, educational content for blockchain for non technical people.
Hmm.
So people who are just curious about like what this space is about and like what people are doing. Um, you know, if they want to get more involved, how can they do that? And so we, have built a very rough, idea or implementation of our idea. And, I think right now we're focused on creating content for users and because we have the platform and we want to, make it a lot more um, worth valuable
Right.
to people who want to learn more. So yeah, it's not an altcoin to me.
Right.
Um,
No, no, not at all. It's, I mean, first of all, it's blockchain. Blockchain is like
mhm.
how you that's just the, I don't know if this is the right word, but the engine for any type of altcoin
Perfect word.
creation,
Perfect
or
word.
any other type of, there's a lot you can do, in which I was just starting to learn more about it,
Mhm.
or hear more about it, but I can attest to, if you don't believe Liam about it being free, I'm gonna look straight into the camera here. I took all the courses this past week,
What?
and I was actually going into it. I'm like, all right, let's see how much this costs, and completely free. So I like the fact that it is for. I mean, if you want to, sometimes if you want to provide a service, provide it for free. That
Mhm.
either way, it's going to be valuable now because no one's paying for anything except their time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I learned a little bit. I actually had some questions I might ask you later.
Oh,
We'll
please do.
say
Yeah.
that for offline. So
Did you get the quizzes implementation?
yeah,
Did you?
for the first course, like
Sure.
every so often, you get a couple questions just to kind of test your knowledge, right, and
Awesome.
reinforce and everything. So I did see in the Discord that that was kind of something new that was
Yeah.
implemented. So was
Yeah.
that
We
you?
just learned. That was a lot of Sam.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure how she implemented it. I wrote like a rough implementation for the quizzes, but I don't know if she continued with that.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I mean, she's doing most of the development right now, and
Hmm.
um, I have a lot of the features I worked on are like. they're just kind of put on the back burner right now until we can like fully launch. We're just like slowly rolling out new features and stuff.
Right.
Um, I'm right now working on the API so that we can create like or we basically want to create a we have a platform for like I guess consumers of our content, but we
Mhm.
don't have a platform for creators. And so that was a big like sticking point for us. Was like how do we make it easier for ourselves and our like content creators to create content for users? And so we're working on a content management system. So I'm
Nice.
doing we're doing architecting right now of what the API would look like and the database and all that fun
Right.
stuff. And um,
So
yeah, it's
that's all coming from scratch then.
yeah, I love doing stuff from scratch, like probably to a fault.
Yeah.
So I love writing stuff from scratch.
That's probably why Microsoft is loving you, you know? So no, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, once again, if anyone, I mean, I do believe that blockchain is not financial advice, is kind of the future for more reason than just crypto and stuff. So if if you want to learn, Anza Academy, check it out. All right, let's kind of shift back over to um, well, I guess the whole interview process, right? I mean, of course, I couldn't sit in there with you during the interviews, and I've been very curious as to how those conversations went. When I heard their feedback afterwards, they were all just smiles, laughing. I'd never seen it before. So well done to you. But were you getting a sense of that?
I definitely walked away feeling good. Like I felt like because I've been in a bunch of interviews before and have felt terrible after because I was like that what didn't go the way I wanted it to, and um, I went in with pretty low expectations. So pretty much anything above that was gonna really shine, or at least make my day. And so that was like walking out of it. I felt like okay, I felt like that went good. I felt like interviews have gone well in the past.
Hmm.
Um,
You
so
can
if
always kind of tell, right?
yeah, but not every time that turns into an offer. Like
Right.
it could be you could be at different places. There could be a more like apt candidate. Um,
Hmm.
so I didn't get my hopes up. I was like, okay. Like, like to be fair, I was frustrated with my position at Visa, but I was like, okay, I can see another 6 months here at
Hmm.
least. Like I had a project I was working on, wrapped that up. I was like, so I was not like I didn't have all my eggs in one basket for the
Right.
interview, which was kind of helpful. You don't
Relax.
have everything at stake, so it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, those interviews were interesting. I think I haven't talked to you about this, but like during one of the interviews, which was probably the hardest technical question that I received, I was like in the middle of like trying to elaborate my approach, and I like written up one approach, and the interviewer, who's my gem right now, is the, like my boss's boss,
Hmm.
um, or my skip. He's a gem. Um, it's I was like, he was like, hey, like you can do it the way that you've implemented it, but is there another way you can do it? And I was
Hmm.
like really trying to like justify why I wanted to do it the way I was doing it, because I felt like it was a, a faster implementation, um, but it wasn't necessarily the most readable. Like, there's a bunch of trade offs. So I was like trying to like explain this, and I was home alone at the time. I was living with a roommate, and I was in my dining room, and I was looking after both my dog and my roommate's dog, and they started freaking out behind me, and they're running around chasing, and I'm in the middle of my interview, and I'm like, excuse me one moment. So I like paused, ran like through the dogs in separate rooms, uh, like came back to the interview, and my interviewer was laughing. He was like, what is going on over there? Um, but then I just like continued. I was just like, okay, like that's taken care of. Just like let's
Hmm.
let's finish this interview, I think that looked pretty good to my interviewer.
I mean, I always say to people that it's since COVID, it's kind of the standard that a dog might start barking, baby
Mhm.
might start crying, or something like
Yeah.
that. It is
Mhm.
what it is. But
Mhm.
in that situation, were you able to get your point across and kind of defend your stance as to, hey, I want to implement this way, and how did that end up? Because I think this is important for, this is good, not just for Microsoft, but for any big tech company. They all do these coding assessments, live coding,
Mhm.
and it's kind of interactive. So how did that end up after you? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like a weird. I feel like I was really on my game at that point, so it was
Hmm.
very easy for me to I paused my train of thought, get up exactly where I had left off, thankfully, because I was just like on my game. Like I really did feel like I was like in the middle of a
In the
competitive
zone.
sport game or whatever.
We call it. This is what we refer to, in the zone.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Welcome.
sir.
You're in the club now.
I was very much in the zone, and it was, um, and like at that point he was like, okay, well, let's just for the sake of seeing if you could do it, like how
Hmm.
would you implement it this way? And I was like, oh, I would just do this, and I just like started quickly coding up how he wanted it, and we ended up running out of time.
Hmm.
Um, but I think I'd gotten myself across, like okay,
Yeah.
like I'm a guy who can get in the zone, you can see that.
I'm clapping because I say this all the time in these situations. If a manager or interviewer throws something at you, like you're working, and then they say, hey, what do you think about this? I always say, take a moment and assess the information, right? And if you feel like you need to state defend your stance, do so, because sometimes they might be saying something just to see how strong you are on that hill. Or
Mhm.
are you going to defend it, really?
Yeah.
um because they want to make sure you're confident in your implementation.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes they'll give a hint, and then, oh yeah, you're right. You start working on it, and then they give another, and then you switch up again. They might ask, why did you switch after, like, why are you listening to me so much?
Mhm.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say it's like a mind game, but
Mhm.
it's good that you explained why I think this is best. But then, so he sounds like he said, all right, well, humor me.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
well done, Liam. Ah, you make me proud. I knew throughout the day I was able to see some of the feedback coming in. Like, I saw all the scores. It was very good. I just didn't know at the end that they were going to be so, like, I'd never seen them so happy about some, especially given your resume and how it didn't necessarily match up. That's why I think
Mhm.
it's important that you know, don't sell yourself short. For anyone that's listening that's looking to get a job or switch jobs, take the shot. You never know. So, no, that's awesome. So I'm glad you're here at Microsoft. So let me segue into the candidate recruiter relationship, or that engagement. As you know, I've told you that my channel, the Deacon Speaks channel, um, that's what I focus on. You mentioned to me that you've had a good amount of experiences and conversations with recruiters. Are there any, I guess, any good, bad experiences you've had, or are you able to point out certain red flags versus green flags right away? Like, what is for you and for candidates as in general? What's that thought process like engaging with a recruiter?
I think I said it earlier, like it is an investment from both sides. Like you have to be willing to, as a recruitee, you have to be, willing to, um, you know, schedule an interview. Like, and obviously there's a nice reward at the end, right? You get a job, all the perks, all that stuff. Um, but that's not everything to everyone. Like there's like I don't know, I can it's hard for me to schedule a doctor's appointment, so like interviews are also like
Yeah,
that.
I
So
feel that.
yeah, it's like there is that initial investment. Um, I guess on your like, what are red flags? I think one that just came to mind um, is when a recruiter doesn't know all the information about the job that they're hiring for. Um, like a big a couple times, you get reached out to on LinkedIn, email, you do applying and stuff. So like you are going to get as a recruitee, a wide, range of recruiters.
Hmm.
And you can really tell the ones that are like not, like connected to the position.
Hmm.
Um, I think a lot of these are um, like contract positions. I'm not sure. It's
Staffers.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
staffing
staffing.
recruiters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those always feel like icky. Like you're just like, oh, like this is not like something I really want to do. Like sometimes it's like it almost feels like you're humoring the
Hmm.
recruiter. Like, okay, like I don't know how to say, like I'm not interested. Like like you're just kind of trying to see it all the way through, and like maybe something good comes out of it, which is why
Right.
you don't turn anything away. But those interviews, those phone calls, those processes don't they miss that human aspect, I feel. So yeah.
Yes. I would say in my experience with staffing, um, it's a grind.
Mhm.
Overall, you may be working to, working on a position for a client, and there's probably five other staffing companies working on the same exact position.
Mhm.
It's kind of a rat race, and when you're held to certain metrics, I think a lot of times that's where recruiters might lose sight of the actual person across from them on the
Mhm.
screen or on the
Right.
phone. I think I want to end with one more thing here. Do you have, I guess, for any two things actually? First, for any developers out there, any advice that you would give them uh, if they were looking for, a job, or whether it's the recruiting process or, you know, what their background versus what's open, anything like that?
Yeah, I guess two pieces of it. One that we've already touched on. Really treat everyone like they're human. Like, don't forget that human connection. Like, you are a human yourself. Like, bring that to the table. Like, bring your individuality, your um, any type of passion. Like, I really don't think you have to be passionate about technology to be successful in technology. I think you just have, like, everybody has a passion,
Hmm.
and that's been something I didn't think I had. Like, I didn't think I was like passionate about things. Turns out I was the whole time. Just was like not channeling it in the right direction.
I saw it.
So and yeah, and like that's something that you also brought to the table is like your humanness, your passion, your individuality, like that shines through, and I think that's why we connected so immediately. So like always treat people like they're humans. Never forget that, and that's just for everything. Especially when it's just over the phone and maybe just a brief conversation. Like that's maybe the most human, the best time to treat someone like a human is when you don't know them, and you're both trying to just do the best that you can. Um, and then yeah, good.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's a good point, because actually that helps us as well. Helps us as recruiters when I feel like I'm talking to a cold fish or something like that. It's like, now I'm starting to get nervous, and I'm like, do I sound stupid, or
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I like that. I'm sorry
Yeah, yeah.
to cut you off.
No, you're good. Um, and I guess the second piece of advice is to like never like put yourself in a box. Like like there's so much opportunity out there, so many ways to reinvent yourself. Um, if you really want to, like you can do anything, you can be anyone. So just keep trying, keep pushing yourself to be the version of yourself that you want to be, which is easier said than done and maybe sounds like superficial, but it is something that I try to do. And I have been successful because of it. So
Right. No, I mean, it is a it's a little hippie-ish, right? But I'm all
Sorry.
for that. But
Yeah.
it is simple,
Mm.
and sometimes things as simple as that is what scares people the most because it is that simple, and it's really looking inside of yourself and identifying what that looks like, and then being brave enough to you know implement it. All right. So then, last thing, what would you say? Not that you're, I mean, not that you're looking for any new jobs right now. Um, for any recruiters that are listening, um, what is it? What is one thing that you feel that maybe most recruiters don't kind of overlook, don't know, aren't prepared for that you wish they brought this to the table a little bit more often in like a phone screen or something like that?
To me, I think it would be nice for a lot of recruitees to know like upfront like what a role pays, because that's a
Ah,
lot of people filter quickly on that, but it's also
hmm,
just like yeah, it makes the process a little bit easier, I think, because and that's just in every role. Like I think people are so afraid to talk about money, and like at least a recruiter shouldn't be like they should be like, hey, like this is this is what we're offering you, like this is
yeah,
what you are getting into. Um, and yeah, and then also just be human, like
yeah.
just let your individuality shine through, and take a page out of Mark's book, Deacon's book.
Oh, you used my government name, man.
Sorry.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I was saving that for. I was gonna address that at the end here. I'll get back to it. But yes, you're right with the compensation thing. Actually, I'm noticing like nationwide that this has kind of been more of a push. A lot of job descriptions are it's like in terms of being compliant, they have to put like a range. So yeah, I mean, if I'm looking for a job, yeah, I want to know what the money's talking about
Mhm.
before I invest my time. So I get it.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
I guess that's pretty much everything that I had planned in terms of like what I wanted to talk to you about, what I wanted other people to hear, because I do feel like you have a very unique kind of story background and stuff like that. I see you blushing over there,
You're
but
too kind.
I mean that. I mean that. And super glad that when I told you about this, like you were psyched. You were all about it. I was kind of nervous to ask you, but this was very fun. I definitely
Yeah.
want to continue. Maybe down the line we set up another one of these. You might be a fan favorite. Now, so of course I'm going to be posting this on the Deacon Speaks channel because I am the deacon. Now, in terms of my government, if you want to see, this is my alter ego, the deacon. If you want to see Mark Holmes. I'll also post this. This is exciting news. I created another channel called TalentXM.
Sick.
Um, if you essentially, I think I'm gonna do any type of interviews like this. I'll be posting them there. Um, I also created a website that kind of explain what it is I'm trying to do with Talent XM. Anyone is invited to go check it out. I have the links in there, and you know what, Liam, that includes you too. If you want to take a look, go
Oh,
ahead.
bro.
But other than that, I'll stop self promoting myself. Um, yeah, I think that wraps it up. And once again, I guess that's the deacon. This is Liam. We'll see everybody soon.